need to go back, all the way back, not just to OD&D, but to proto D&D. Today we're jousting. I'm going to tell you about my experiences running an NPC in a friend's jousting tournament for his regularly scheduled D&D group. The rules contained in the jousting supplement for Chainmail would work really well with any version of Dungeons & Dragons, and maybe even other games as well. You're just going to have to use a little bit of that thing we call creativity. Remember that? The hobby used to be filled with it. Before we get into the rules of the joust and my experience playing in a tournament, let me just cover something that people ask all the time. This is a hardbound version of all of the original. I'm only missing Swords and Spells, but here we go. The one that started it all. Book 1, Men and Magic. It's got Men and Magic supplements 1 through, I think like 6 are in here. It's missing Swords and Spells, but it does have Chainmail, and that's important because Chainmail, particularly the 3rd edition by Gary Gygax and Jeff Perrin, includes the rules for jousting. Knights in a friendly combat, armed with lance and shield, and mounted upon mighty destroyers. Did I pronounce that right? Each player can operate one or several knights to stage a tournament. The rules, this is it, man. These are the rules. These couple of paragraphs. And this chart right here. Now, I haven't talked about this on the channel before because it's essentially a glorified version of rock, paper, scissors. It relies heavily on, trying to outwit your opponent or outguess him, as the case may be. Doesn't work well as a single-player game. But as a two-player game, it's amazing, and it's quick, and it's easy to understand exactly how it works. On any given turn, all you have to do is pick a column for your defensive position. You're going to lower your helmet. You're going to lean to the left, to the right. You're just going to sit up high and proud, or you're going to hold your shield high or your shield low. Those are it. That's the 6 of them. Then you pick your target. The guy I'm aiming at, I'm going to pick one of these 7 targets. The Dexter Chief, which would be upper left. What is that? Pale? Chief Pale? Sinister Chief? Chief Fess and Base. Oh, very evocative, very medieval authentic. This is the real medieval authentic. Then your opponent's going to do the same thing. And all you have... There's one other rule we need to talk about before we get to the tournament, and that's this last column here. This is a little bit backwards, but it makes a lot of sense when you look at it. This is the possible defensive positions considering your aiming point. In other words, if I'm aiming high and to the left, there are certain positions that I can't really sit in order to hit that target. So taking a look at that, if I'm aiming at a guy's helm, that means that my defensive position, I can't do lower helm, I can't lean to the left or the right. I have to be seated up high because I'm aiming high. Likewise, if I'm aiming at the base of his shield down here, I can't use position 2 or 3. I can't lean left or right. Now I can crouch down behind my shield, and I can hold my shield low, but I can't lean. And as you might expect, if I'm aiming at the left-hand side, that's DC here, then I can't lean to the right. I'm aiming to the left, I can't lean to the right. And so the interesting thing about this is where knowing that your opponent is going to go with a steady seat, you say, oh, well, that's good. I know he's going to be here. I can pick exactly what's going to happen to me. But you got to be careful, because he knows that you can pick. And if you aim for the FP, he knows FP is coming. He can counter that pretty easily. So this is deep, man. You could look at this and spend a pretty good amount of time figuring out how this works. Then your opponent's going to do the same thing. And all you have to do to find out what happens to you is cross-reference, and you index. So if I chose I'm leaning to the left, and he decided to hit my lower left, then we come over here and bang, oh, that's a miss. Oh, I said DF is, lower left. So if I'm leaning to the left and he's aiming to the left, he's just going to miss me completely. On the other hand, if I have chosen to aim for his upper left and he decided to lower his helmet, kapow, you means unhorsed. There's only 6 results from this. Break your lance, the lance glances off, the helmet knocked off, injured, a miss, and unhorsed. If you break your lance or your helmet is knocked off, you have to assume position 4, and your enemy will know that. You run 3 tilts, you run at each other 3 times, and then whoever has the most points at the end of those 3 wins. Of course, if you unhorse your opponent, it's an automatic kill. It's sudden death, and unhorsing, it's over. What does injured mean, though? Well, in the context of these rules, those results come about, they provide a scoring system. And Gary assumes you're going to do a team tournament, but you don't have to, right? So here, if you break your lance, if you're the attacker and your lance breaks, oh, you lose a point. If you knock your opponent's helmet off, you get 3 points. If you're hurt, you get minus 10 points. So really, if you're injured, just throw in the towel, because you're going to have to knock your opponent. You have to unhorse your opponent, basically. Because if you're the attacker and you're unhorsed, then you gain 20 points. So you got to knock the guy off. I'm under attack. I guess Biscotti doesn't want to hang out after all. In a normal tournament, if it's a team tournament, you just tally up the points. Whichever team scores the most points wins. So even if you lose, just knocking your opponent's helmet off and minimizing the damage can help your team win. What does that mean in the context of a regular D&D campaign? Well, there's a couple of things that you need to decide upon from this chart. And the first thing is, in a traditional tournament, if you unhorse your rider, then you get his stuff. Kind of. You win his stuff, but because you are a knight, you are holy, righteous, and just, you don't have to just sell his stuff and pawn it for loot. You can actually say, listen, I now have your ransom. You're going to serve me for a term, for like the next 6 months. And that happened in the tournament that we're going to talk about. The other thing we should talk about is injured. What does that mean? It kind of depends on which version of D&D you're running. If you're running basic/expert, if you're running AD&D, if you're running one of the kind of lower end power scales, you may decide that an injury results in 1 hit point. So first level fighters that are jousting with minimal hit points, they get knocked off 2 or 3. If they get injured 3 or 4 times, they may withdraw from the tournament because they're down to 1 hit point. If they were healing up from a dungeon run and they've only got 6 hit points, if they get attacked by bandits on the way to the tournament, bandits may be hired by one of their opponents to knock them down a few pegs, get them a little hurt, so when they show up, they can only stand to be injured a few times. Oh, now we're plugging the jousting matrix into the wider campaign. That's interesting. The point is, if you decide that an injury means you're only losing 1 hit point at a time, then okay, great. My fighter with 6 hit points can take 5 losses before he withdraws from the tournament. On the other hand, if you're playing something like the most modern version, whatever they're calling it these days, 5e, 160, 5.5, whatever, you've got so many hit points, you may decide that an injury is D3 hit points. And that's interesting because it adds a little bit more uncertainty to the proceedings. If I've only got 3 hit points left, I could probably survive 1 more injury. On the other hand, you've got all of those short rests and long rests, and what you can do is figure out how long this takes, and you've only got 2 short rests for the day, right? So if a short rest is, I don't even know what the rules are, like 10 minutes, but there's only 5 minutes between tilts, you may not have enough time between bouts to heal up the number of hit points that you can proceed. So that's something else to consider. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the tournament that I participated in. And it was really easy. Friend of the channel, Polyfamous, that's what he goes by over on the Elon Musk house party. He said, I'm doing this for my regular players who wants to run the bad guys, the NPCs. And it's hard to play this as an NPC because if you're the dungeon master, your opponent, you need to be able to pick these first and then ask your player, which one of these are you going to do? Because you need that little bit of hidden information, right? That guessing game. But if you have just randos playing, then you can just ask them, and that's what happened to me. I said, yeah, I will, and I don't want to come up with a whole big name thing, so just assign me one of the boys. And the knight that I got assigned was Sir Lionel Courtenay, a young Hotspur. Oh, great, that's all I need. I'm good. Now, because we're doing this on social media, I wanted to be able to throw up a bunch of eye-catching photos and come up with a little mini story for my NPC. The way the game actually works in progress was I had to nominate my defensive stance and my posture for each of the tilts that I participated in. Spoilers, there were only 2 of them. I didn't win the tournament. And each round, or bout, if you will, only took 2 hours. So it was literally a case of DMing him my target and my defensive stance and waiting for the results to pour in. While waiting for those results, I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and throw together a couple of edge posts, and I wanted to find a picture of a knight that would be suitably like memeable, and I didn't want to use the classic tale, A Knight's Tale. Now, that's a great movie. Me and the kids love it. We've watched it a number of times, but that's the default everybody goes to. I wanted to go with something a little more obscure. So I did a little bit of searching around on the internet, and I found this little kind of like Hallmark romance rom-com called All's Fair in Love. Low budget, obscure. Okay, look, based on this photo, you can tell that it's actually a Renaissance fair. Doesn't matter. I just need pictures of a guy in armor on a horse jousting. And it turns out the lead for this movie is a fellow you may have heard of, fairly controversial comedian, Owen Benjamin, which, if you know the crowds I run in, was a little too perfect. The universe came together a little too well for me. That is what Sir Lionel de Courtenay is going to look like. So I grabbed a bunch of pictures, changed his cloak from blue to yellow because this was my shield design given to me by the DM. Remember, I'm playing an NPC. And that looks a little something like this. This also afforded me the opportunity to just have a little fun with the other opponents in the ring. Come out, you cuckolds! It wouldn't be a proper tournament without a little bit of boasting. So I started off a little on the lighthearted side. Sir Baldwin de la Roche, thou art the son of an honorable and just crusader. Your reputation does you honor, and on horsing you shall be nothing but gravy. The bears know what I'm talking about. I also went ahead and threw together a couple of pictures like this one. Of course, he's not going to be trying to raise money for Bear Terrier. It will be Lion Terrier. Then all I had to do was wait. Turns out I won the first match against Sir Baldwin de la Roche, and then I got a little too big for my knightly breeches. My steel-clad breeches just weren't up to snuff. The next opponent that I faced was Fortinbras, and he would go on to win the entire tournament. He would win this belt here. This is the championship belt. And unfortunately, I missed my opportunity. I told him that I was going to give him a great look at the sky, and then when I lost, he said, "How's the view from down there?" And I should have said cloudy. But I decided to go a little bit more magnanimous. Instead, I decided to play to the crowd and shouted out, "Oh nay, I hast been yeeted," which is good stuff. So here's what the bracket looked like at the start of the tournament. We only had like 5 or 6 guys. I was a little surprised by that, a little disappointed. I think the Twitter bros probably could have stepped up a little more. It was easy. I only had to do 2 drops through the list. Sir Fortinbras, the guy that unhorsed my guy, won the whole tournament, and because he is a good and honorable knight, he said just what we talked about earlier, and I hadn't realized this would be the case. I thought old Sir Lionel was going to be broke and out on his butt. But Sir Fortinbras, played by Hollyfelled, who was also one of my players in the Decembork event from a few years ago, he said, no. Don't give me your stuff. Give me your service. I'm gonna go crusading. And Sir Lionel was like, wait, this is the consolation prize? Like, I was trying to prove myself here that somebody might take me in service, and you're gonna do that? Giddy up. Everybody's a winner here. There was a surprise entry by the Black Knight, and oddly enough, the guy running this tournament, Polyfamous, he didn't just stop at 3 tilts through the lists. Sir Fortinbras had to take a break. Something was good. It might have been some real-world stuff, but he actually had one bout that went the distance, 5 full rounds before they had a full winner. Not only that, it turns out Sir Fortinbras, he had been attacked by rodents of unusual size the night before, so he was suffering from a few hit points. There was a very real chance that he would have won the tournament with his dying blow. So dramatic, such a plot twist. I didn't realize that until the next day. There weren't a whole lot of updates as the day went on, which is fine. I'm just helping a guy out, and he doesn't owe me anything. The thread the next day, kind of recounting the events, was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. This was a great experience. If you want to do this in your own campaign, here's what I recommend. For this exercise, I'm assuming you are either playing in person or on camera. You're going to give each player, or ask each player, to procure a deck of cards. Pull out 1 through 7 for the red cards. Those will be our attack position, 1 through 6 for the black cards. I have separated these by suit. The top cards are going to be the attack cards, and the bottom cards will be the defensive cards. And then you tell your players, once you have selected your attack, use your red card for your, the red card goes through 6. So, the red card goes, For this exercise, I'm assuming you are either playing in meat space or you have a camera set up. Ask each player to grab a deck of cards. I just use one deck of cards because we need the red suits 1 through 7 will indicate where our attack point is. And what you'll do is you'll select one card. In this case, the 3 means we're aiming for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll call it 7. Okay, just keep it simple. You could make up a little deck of 3x5 cards and have each of these locations blacked out, make it a little more evocative. But instead, we're just going to use a regular deck of cards. Of course, the black cards for each of our jousting knights will be for the defensive positions, and that's really easy because they're numbered across the board. And then the players will select both their defensive and attack positions. So as I said, these are the defensive and these are the attack positions. You grab your 2 cards and you hold them up and you snigger and you chuckle as you've outsmarted your opponent. I almost forgot to say, by using the cards, you have that dramatic moment of the big reveal. It's almost as good as rolling a natural 20. And for this first tilt, this is what we have. So we got to find out what the knight on the left does to the knight on the right. And really what we're doing is comparing the attack, which is going to be targeting SF, right, to the defensive stance of shield high. So we come across SF to shield high, G, that it glances off. So the guy on the right, his lance just glanced off. On the other hand, the knight on the left chose SC, high and inside. Compare that to a steady seat, and SC means G glances off. So there's your first ride. No points are scored. Both of these guys, they just guessed really well. So you move on to the second ride, and there may be some honor points, right? You role play that. Another opportunity for role playing. We like that, don't we, guys? You can put on your best Joker. Wait, is that the guy who played the guy? Yeah, it was a Joker in The Knight's Tale, right? So we do again, number 5 this time. And of course, you don't have to, I'm just going through the deck so we get different matchups. But you can, I always go steady seat. Always go steady seat. In this case, that took like a minute, right? So in this case, our attacker is aiming for FP. He's dead center, man. He is just firing a fastball right down the pipe. And a 5 compared with the defensive stance of steady seat. So FP versus steady seat. BU, break lance, unhorsed. He has unhorsed the guy on the right. But these are simultaneous. The guy on the right aimed DC versus a lean left, M means he completely missed. So the guy on the left gets blown out of the saddle and he loses the bout. That took us 2 minutes to resolve. Now, it takes a little bit longer when you're at the table because there's a lot of logistics and a lot of talking and jawing that goes back and forth. Falling off your horse, I would argue, that counts as an injury. Notice some of these have BUI, so which means not only does your lance break, but you're unhorsed and you are injured. And the real beauty of running a tournament in your fantasy role-playing game is that this is the perfect opportunity to play when you're not at the table. This is an opportunity to practice plugging in one of those subsystems that works so easily via text, via email, via direct message. You can be playing D&D when you're not at the table. When you've got a week's worth of downtime, you plan this out months ahead, even just 3 months ahead. Hey, we got to get out of this dungeon because we got a tournament coming up in a little while. You can be playing these mind games with your friends when you're even away from the table and practicing how to plug outside systems, these modules, if you will. Just drag them and drop them into your game, and it will expand the experience and provide all kinds of avenues for the sorts of role play that you see on the big screen all the time and always want to get into your games, but you never knew how. It's just this easy. Grab a copy of the table for Jousting. Tell your players you're running in a tournament, drag some other people into your game, and even those NPCs now have the option of becoming PCs. This may be a great way to kick off your next Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And with this kind of attitude, maybe it'll last longer than the community average of 6 sessions. It's worth a shot. Till next time, I'm praying for you.